good afternoon, good evening, whatever the time is. How are you doing? I hope you're doing well. Today I'm filming a video that I've meant to film for ages, but to be honest, it's long overdue. Today we're going through my physical TBR. Now, this is only about half the books. I've piled them all up on my bed here behind me and we're just going to run through them really. If you see my missing nail, please ignore it. It's a bit crusty, it's a bit dusty, but it's fine. Welcome back to my channel if you're a returning viewer. If you're not, if you're new, stay a while, get a cup of tea. You might like your time here. I had a lot of people ask me to update my physical TBR because the last video I did was on TikTok around a year ago and I didn't have a YouTube channel at that point, I don't think. If you've been watching my videos for a while now, you'll know that in the year of 2024, I've decided to not buy any more books for at least 6 months. I'm hoping I can extend the year, but for at least 6 months. Last year it turned out it was a bit of a 50-50 split, I think, which I was really surprised at. I will say I think the quality of Kindle Unlimited books is going down. Maybe my reading tastes have changed, but I'm very unimpressed with the Kindle selection now. I don't pay for it though, my boyfriend pays for it, so I don't think I'm going to cancel anytime soon. One thing I'm really guilty of doing is buying so many physical books and never reading them. I'm sure you can all relate to that. We just add to the pile gets bigger and I'm not reading anything physical. Since I've got my Kindle, I just prefer to read digitally, and I never thought I'd say that, but there's just something so compact and concise and handy about the Kindle. I read really quickly, so it's quite nice to just be able to flick through it and not have to buy like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of books, because if I bought every book that I read in a physical book, my collection would just be too big. I had this problem when I was younger. I would be broke, I'd be out on the streets. Now when I buy physical books, it's very much an impulse buy, and it's very much based on vibe, based on cover. If I really do like a book that I've read on Kindle and I really like the cover, I will buy the physical version of it, but I don't have a lot of space for books, which really helps. I think once I have the house of my dreams with a massive bookshelf, I might buy a few more. So while I'm on this kind of book buying ban, I am making a conceited effort to work through my physical TBR and try to do like 1 or 2 physical books a month. I am doing more than that actually, and stupidly I have been using the library. It's not stupid, but I've been using library books when I have all of these books here. I saw someone do a tip, I think it was on TikTok. She said if you buy a book, you should start reading it within 2 days of buying it. And every time I've done that, I've done really well with it. But I have books in here that I bought like over a year ago that I still haven't touched. Also, it's something about the length for me. If a book is like 700 pages and I'm reading it physically, it's really gonna, I'm gonna find it quite cumbersome, and I read late into the night, but I can't have the light on obviously. I have a book reading light, but I don't have batteries for it at the moment. Anyway, without further ado, let's get through it. I'm gonna go through them. Some of them I might not have much to say about. First up, we have the unabridged journals of Sylvia Plath. I wanted this for so long. It's expensive, you know, like it was like £25, £27 I think. I had to get it on eBay. I really want to read this, but I'm genuinely frightened because I think it will just make me so depressed. Also, the font is really small and it's like 700 pages. So I think, yeah, I think this will literally ruin my life. So I'm putting this off. Next up, I have a book called A Round-Heeled Woman by Jane Juska. This is a book about sex. I got this in a car boot sale. At the age of 66, Jane Juska decided to change her life. She placed an ad in the newspaper. Before I turn 67 next March, I would like to have sex with a lot of men I like. Interview with a Vampire by Anne Rice. Classic. Again, small font, putting it off. Tales of folk horror. This is short stories. I love short stories. Tales of folk horror. I think I stole this from somewhere. I didn't steal it. That's really out of pocket, but I think I like saw it in a cafe and they were like, it was like a free to take thing. Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn. We do a book exchange at work and someone bought this in, and I really love the film and apparently the book's amazing, and I just still haven't got around to reading it. But I often put off books that I've watched the film because I know what happens. Exquisite Corpse by Poppy Z. Bright. This was a vibe buy. I really like horror. So Sophie's World by Justine Gardner. I read this when I was really young. It's like a philosophy book. It's quite good, like intro to philosophy. So this is a reread, but I haven't read it as an adult. See, I love buying books at boot sale. These were 3 for £1 and it's got like a little ticket in it that I don't know what's for. It's got a note on it that I can barely read and the date on the cashier's stamp. I think this is from a cheque and it's 28th of May 1997, so that was like a year and a bit old, and that was being used as a bookmark in this. I'm gonna keep all the things that I find in those kinds of books. Witchfinders, I got this in the works a really long time ago. Look, you can still see the sticker all faded. It was £3. Love anything about witches. The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath, of course. This is quite short, but I've never actually read this, but I hear it doesn't read very well now. If anyone's read The Bell Jar, I can't believe that I haven't actually. I didn't read it in school or anything. Let me know your thoughts on it because I'd be really curious to hear whether you think I should bump it up the list or not. George R.R. Martin and Lisa Tuttle, Windhaven. I haven't read any George R.R. Martin, even though I'm an avid Game of Thrones fan. As I'm not buying books, I'm quite hesitant about starting books that are series because it's going to take me longer to obtain the second and third. Fleabag, The Scriptures. I got this for Christmas. Doug gave it to me. I've wanted this for so long, specifically this edition rather than the paperback edition. I will read this, but this is less of like a traditional read because it is just the script for Fleabag. Maybe I'll read this soon actually, because I've been wanting to rewatch Fleabag. So I really don't want to annotate this, but I think it deserves annotating. And I'm not usually precious about annotating books, but this means so much to me, this book. I was honestly so delighted to receive it. Simple Zen, A Guide to Living in the Moment. This is by C. Alexander Simpkins, PhD, and Annellen Simpkins, PhD. My dad gave me this. This has got a bookmark in it and it's an empty packet of rooibos tea. All very spiritual in my family. Iron Widow by Ziran J. Zhao. I've heard amazing things about this and I bought this so long ago and I really haven't read it and it needs to bump up my list. I need to add all of these to my Storygraph because you can set reading challenges with your TBR on Storygraph now. Sister Sister by Candice Brathwaite. I love her TikTok and Instagram. I just think she is such a gem. Non-fiction as well, and I've gone off non-fiction quite a lot recently. I don't have a lot of non-fiction in my TBR, whereas originally I started reading again by reading non-fiction. The Shadow King, I've borrowed this from someone at work. Really, really highly acclaimed. Another horror or like crimey based one, The First Day of Spring. I'm not gonna lie, I really hate this cover. There was a much better cover that's like black with purple flowers, but I got it for literally like a couple of quid, so it will have to do. These Violent Delights by Chloe Gong. I heard really, really good things about this. The font is really small, which is just really agging me out. But after I bought it, I've heard like such mixed reviews and that's what put me off starting it because this was like the top of my TBR for a really long time. Lord knows why I didn't read it in time. For me, I prefer physical books that are like this length rather than this length. I think this is erring on the side of like a little bit too long for me, but I'm gonna have to get over it because I have to read all of these and some of them are so long. And I managed to read A Little Life in physical cover, like in a physical book, so you know, nothing can stop me. Seven Husbands. This is lent to me by a friend, I think. I've got quite a bad relationship with Book Talk. A friend has lent me this really kindly, so I do need to read it because I've had it for months. But yeah, everything I've read that's been a recommendation off Book Talk has led me astray, but I do think this has got to be popular for a reason and it can't be worse than any of the Colleen Hoover books, and I kind of enjoyed some of those. So yeah, I actually know what happens and I feel like it will be an easy read, so I should just really get this out of the way. The Other Black Girl, my dad got me this for Christmas. He's read it and he said it's amazing, so I need to read it. I've seen this in loads of bookshop windows. It's just, I don't like reading a hardback that much, but I think it's not that long. I thought I was nearly done, and then there's loads of books on this side as well. I hate the cover of this. This is Annihilation because this is like the Netflix cover. I don't know if that's focused. It's really short and it's supposed to be really good. I was recommended this by a friend and the blurb caught my eye. But like it's now a Netflix original film, so it has like a really ugly Netflix cover. So I don't want to read it because of that. Is that really petty? I say I haven't got a lot of non-fiction, but then I've got Shoe Dog, which is the creator of Nike. It's a memoir. I think there's a movie coming out about this. I feel like I saw a trailer about it a really long time ago. I like a memoir, you know, I like a memoir a lot. The Christmas Jigsaw Murders, another gift from my dad because he interviewed the author, I think. Murder mystery isn't usually my type of book, but we were talking about this and it sounded really interesting because he interviewed the author and then he got it for me as a gift, and it's not very long and I think I'll read it going into the winter because it's Christmas themed. It might get me like excited for Christmas. 101 Essays That Change the Way You Think. So I started reading this. The pages are really white. Do you know what I mean? Like when the pages are actually like bleached white. They're not like book colour. It's got good flop too. I actually started reading this not that long ago, but I started reading it digitally and then I bought the physical one because I liked it so much. So I just need to carry on getting through it. But I think it's quite a heavy read. Like I want to read this all in one sitting, but I think I need to read it bit by bit and take it in. I've heard really good things about Brianna West. I think she wrote The Mountain Is You. I really do love a self-improvement book and I try not to read them too much because I do think there is such a thing as consuming too much self-improvement content, and I think it can be quite bad for you and you can become quite insufferable. So I bought this a long time ago when I was going through that phase and yeah, maybe this will be the year that I do it, because I think I do really want to read it. I say I've not got a lot of non-fiction, but I do. So this is The Philosophy of Tea. I'm quite a big tea drinker. Yeah, I just saw this and I was really interested in it because I like philosophy and I love drinking tea. Who's read this? I've read this and I really liked it at the time. So I saw it at a charity shop. Time for a reread. There's a movie about it, but I never saw the movie because I liked the book so much. I was scared I wouldn't like the movie. Eunuchs and Nymphomaniacs by Anonymous. This is actually a sequel to Diary of an Oxygen Thief, which I haven't read, and I only realised that when I started reading it, so it's just still in my TBR. The Cat and the City, another gift from my dad. My dad buys me really good books. The cover is just gorgeous as well. Half of a Yellow Sun. Really disappointed with myself that I haven't read this yet. The Iliad. Again, I picked this up at a car boot. I have been trying to listen to the Iliad on audiobook and I've DNF'd it because I got lost halfway through. I wasn't listening properly, so I think I will give it another go another time, but I want to read it alongside listening to it. I think now is just not my time. Crime and Punishment. I started this and then DNF'd it last year. Too hard for me at the time. Will give it another go this year, I think. I got about 46 pages in and it was a bit of a complex read for me and I wasn't in the right headspace to read it at the time, so I will be giving that another go hopefully this year. The Mixed Race Experience. I think this will be quite a heavy read for me, so that's why I'm putting it off. This was another one my dad gave me called Simple Zen, and guess what? It's also got a Rubosh tea bag bookmark in it. Motherless Daughters, The Legacy of Loss. I think, again, this will be a really heavy read for me. This is a reread. It's Ted Hughes' Birthday Letters. I read this when I was a teenager, so yeah, just really want to read it again. Evil Roots, Killer Tales of the Botanical Gothic. More kind of witchy, Victorian-y botanical horror. Salt on Your Tongue. This is about women and our relationship with the sea. As a woman with a relationship with the sea, this really piques my interest. It's non-fiction. In Salt on Your Tongue, Charlotte Runcie explores what the sea means to us and particularly what it's meant to women throughout the ages. She explores how the sea has inspired, fascinated and terrified us and how she fell in love herself with the deep blue. I fucking love the ocean, so yeah, excited to delve into this whenever I delve into this. A Long Way to a Small Angry Planet was recommended to me by one of my friends. It's a sci-fi book. It's part of a series, but you don't have to read them all in order. The Galaxy and the Ground Within, also by the same author. And then I have Record of a Spaceborne Few. It really annoys me that these two are matte and this one's gloss. Simple Taoism, also given to me by my dad. A Guide to Living in Balance. I feel like you can tell what kind of person my dad is by the books he's gifted me. Margaret Atwood, The Year of the Flood. I've only read The Handmaid's Tale and The Testaments by her, and I did really enjoy them. I'm not really sure about what her other books are like, but couldn't help picking this up. Dear John, The Road to Pelindaba. This is also a gift for me from my dad. Half of my TBR has been bought for me by my dad. This is the life story of Mark Constantine, who's the co-founder of Lush. So it's a memoir, but it has a lot of like photos and stuff in it, so I probably should get through this. I think he just bought this for me because he knew I liked Lush, but isn't that what parents are for? You mentioned something once and parents are like, oh, I got you this. But I also think this would be a nice coffee table book because it's really pretty. Another memoir, Widow Basquiat. I actually really lied about this non-fiction because like 30% of this is non-fiction. Hydra, this is also a bit of a horror murder thriller, I think. Cover got me. One thing about me is I am gonna impulse buy like scary books. Tower of Dawn, kindly sent to me by a friend. I need to read this. This is probably one of my next books I'm gonna read, but look how big it is. And I'm gonna do the tandem read with Empire of Storms. It's really intimidating to me. That is gonna be done ASAP. Maybe even by the time this video is out I'll have started reading it, but yeah, I've got I'm gonna get Empire of Storms digitally so I can tandem read comfortably because I just can't be lugging two books this size around to tandem read. Black Tudors, this was my brother's book. I don't know if he ever read it, but it looked really interesting and he didn't read much, so I thought, oh, it's quite sweet that he's bought it. It must have really interested him, so that's why I've kept it. And the last one is a horror one, and it is Weird Woods, Tales from the Haunted Forests of Britain. The covers of these just really caught me. So British Library Tales of the Weird, they have ones about the oceans, they have ones about like lots of different landscapes. A lot of them are horror. I get these from Waterstones, they're in the horror section. They have like 5 or 6. They have paranormal ones. I think they have ones about sea and beaches and lighthouses. They're all just a bit like ooky spooky, and I think they're all short stories. My receipt is in it from when I bought it, and I bought these in February 2022. Oh my god, I remember this was with a Christmas gift card. So that is everything on my physical TBR. I probably have a lot more on my digital TBR, but I don't really keep track of that, to be honest. I don't actually know how many books that is. I think I'm gonna count them up, but it must be over 20, right? I'm just like looking on the floor at all the books around me. So what I'm keen to hear from all of you is if you've read any of those books. Which ones are you bumping up the list? Which ones are you thinking I would really like? Which ones do you love? Which ones do you hate? I finish a book and I find it really hard. I look at this pile and I think, oh my god, like what am I gonna do? I have made pretty good progress with my physical TBR, to be honest. Like I am reading them regularly now, and especially since I haven't set a reading target for this year, I feel more motivated to tackle the longer books because it doesn't matter how long I take to read them because I'm not targeting myself. At a minimum, I'm trying to do one book off my physical TBR every month. In February, at the time of recording this, I've read 2 books off my physical TBR, and I've actually read more physical books than I have digital. I've only read 1 digital this month, the rest have been physical, and 1 was from the library. I think my issue with a lot of these is that the font is really small, and I find that quite disheartening when you're reading like quite a dense book already and then you see how small the font is. I should just wear my glasses, really, make a lot of difference, but fuck knows why I don't. What I usually try to do is when I'm sorting out my book reviews for the end of the month, I like pull everything out that I've read that month, and then I would try set aside 2 or 3 books that I can choose from, physical books, that month to read. What I've always wanted to do is get like a big jar and put everything in the jar like in a little folded up piece of paper and swish around and then pull out, but I think the problem I have is we all have sentience, we're all people, we're conscious beings. If I don't want to read a book, I can just put back the piece of paper. That defeats the point of it. Maybe I should divide it into fiction and non-fiction, I don't know, but then I feel like I'd never pick out the non-fiction. What would you do? How do you tackle your physical TBR? Do you tackle your physical TBR? Because most of the book people I know don't ever address it. Anyway, let me know what you think, because I'd be really curious to see what you think about all of this. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you on the next video. I upload on Wednesdays and Sundays around 6 p.m. All my links and my socials and stuff are in the description box, so if you can't get enough of my content, you can follow me on other platforms. Thank you so much for watching. Have a lovely rest of your week, and I will see you on the next video.